Well, the National Center for Alternative Certification was started by the National Center for Education Information, which I founded in 1979, actually. And the reason we created NCAC, the National Center for Alternative Certification, was because the growth in alternative routes for certifying teachers was really taking off. So in 2003, we got a grant from the U.S. Department of Education to actually set up a clearinghouse of information about alternative routes. So that was the primary impetus for creating that site, was to make information available, particularly to individuals who were seeking to become teachers. Alternate routes have had a major, major impact on not only who's entering the teaching profession, but how they enter. Alternate routes were, from the very beginning, set up to be basically on-the-job training programs. That's what they eventually wound up being. And what they demonstrated was that the clinical, actual practice teaching experience of would-be teachers, of people who wanted to become teachers, was just terribly important. So you find now in traditional college campus-based teacher education programs a much greater emphasis on the clinical or field-based experiences in training teachers. That's a major impact of alternate routes. And the other is to really show dramatically that there's a real interest in becoming teachers among people who already have a degree. And we really didn't know that that market existed, much less did we know how large it is, actually. Well, there's still, I would have to say, we also do studies and report on studies and research about the preparation and certification of teachers. And the jury is really pretty much in that alternate routes, by and large, don't necessarily do a better job than traditional, nor does traditional do a better job than alternate routes. And one of the reasons is that there's so much variation within alternate routes and within traditional teacher education programs. So the research doesn't show that one as a category is any better than another. Alternate routes clearly are more efficient, but mainly because they're very market-driven phenomenon. An alternate route program doesn't exist unless there's a demand for teachers. Whereas in traditional programs, you've got 40% of the people who train to teach who don't go into teaching, whereas in alternate routes, you're not even in one unless there's a job for you on the other end. So that seems to have a real edge for them. They're also designed for people who already know their subject matter and need skills in being an effective teacher. So as time has gone on, the emphasis on, the clinical aspects of the program, the making sure that they know best practices of teaching, and how that's delivered is a constant struggle, both within traditional programs as well as alternate routes. Well, NCAC does have the requirements for all of the alternate route programs in each of the states in the United States, and you have to be certified to teach in a public school in the state that you're teaching in. So if you want to teach, let's say, in California or New York or Florida or Mississippi, you can go to our site and do a search for the state that you're interested in, and the alternate route, the description of the program, the requirements for entry, how long it takes, what you do while you're in it is all there. And then if you want to pursue it further, we have all the contacts in the states and in many of the local places, and they can go directly there and apply. Well, I think we really do need to be focusing not so much on the processes of becoming a teacher. A lot of the state requirements, for example, for approving programs as well as for granting certificates to people are really based on a set of criteria that for the most part don't hold up in today's world. So I think we're going to have to rethink what we measure in determining whether or not somebody is going to be a good teacher or not. And I think the best way you do that is you identify what effective teaching is, and then you look for it in the people that you're training to teach, and you create experiences for them that ensure that they'll learn those things. And I think we've got a long way to go to do that across the board. I think they really do need to look at what all of the options are. The thing that we advise people in these tough economic times to do is, if you know that you want to teach, we recommend to people that you get as close to where you want to teach as possible. If you know you want to teach in a given school, first thing you should do before you put a dime or any time into it is to go to that school and see what your chances are of getting hired if you do go ahead and get certified. The school-based people can often be very helpful in advising you on what the best route is. If you call your local college or university, they're likely going to encourage you to go through a master's degree program, a program that you may not need to invest that much time and money in going through in order to be an accomplished teacher. If you want to get certified, and which you have to do in order to teach in public schools, then alternative routes provide an alternative, and you can very often go through these programs while you're teaching, and while you're learning experiences in becoming an effective teacher, generally with a mentor, and you can do them in a year or less time in many cases. In some cases they last 2 years. So it really just depends on the individual, because believe me, every alternative imaginable is available these days.